And welcome back to Hot and Cold Podcast. It's your host, Sam, along with Connor and Bryson. And later in the episode, we'll have a very special guest from Go Big Blue Country. We have Shawn Smith joining us, Kentucky fan. I think it's our first. Is that our first Kentucky fan we've had guest?
Sadly.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm really happy to have him on. It was an awesome interview. We talked a lot about some topics that we've covered in previous episodes, Isaiah Jackson, whatever. Anyways, so last night it was a big night in college basketball. A lot of upsets, a lot of teams that are kind of proving us wrong a little bit. Just a lot of stuff happened, and I want to get to the most pressing one. Michigan State beat Illinois by 9 points last night, and it caused a little bit of backlash from one of our hosts. And a very good friend of the podcast is not very happy with it. So Michigan State beat Illinois by 9. They were pretty much dominating the entire game. Illinois just did not look like themselves. They weren't playing well at all. Michigan State looked really good on the other hand. Rocket Watts with 15, Aaron Henry with 20. Just a lot of guys producing. They're coming off of 2 wins against Indiana, against Illinois. They may be turning it around. Like I said, not necessarily a blue blood, but they're about as close as you can get. And they're back. They're back. Blue Bloods are back. They're back. Connor, why do you hate Illinois and Nick Norris?
All right. First off, I've got a couple things I want to get to. One, happy for Indiana to be the get-right game for so many teams. For Michigan State, it seems they are the most recent one. Michigan State had been struggling mightily, and then they came in, struggled against Indiana, came back and won, and now they're looking really good. Second, the whole IO National Player of the Year conversation is over.
You think
done?
It's ended.
It has to be over. I never bought into the fact that he should be in the conversation. Maybe he should be. I mean, everybody can be, whatever. But he had 17 points, also took 18 shots. Not very good efficiency, I would say. No, I just don't buy that. I also, again, don't buy Illinois. They are ranked too high. They have 6 losses now. They should not be in the top 10. And I'm ready for Nick. I'm ready. I think we might have some planning going on here. Maybe he'll come join us.
We're at the very ground floor of planning on having Nick. He's a busy guy. He's working at Western, but he wants to be on. Every bit of him wants to be on and fight this take. And I might just mute myself and listen. Bryson, you cool with that? Me and you just mute and just listen to this conversation.
Yeah, I do have one thing I want to say about Illinois. In regards to the Player of the Year race, it's a one-man race. I mean,
it's
to be honest, everyone's playing for second, but I mean, we can throw names out and say they're in it. Whatever. I'm gonna rebuttal one of your takes, Sam, that Illinois is the best team in the Big Ten.
I went back on that take.
Okay.
I went back on that take.
You really haven't, though.
I did because Michigan beat Ohio State, and I did say they're the best team. Just Michigan didn't beat anybody yet. They haven't. They haven't had one top 20 win before. So,
would you say that Illinois is the second best team? Is that your opinion?
Probably before they lost last night, I would have said that, but there's so much changing that goes around. It's probably Ohio State now, but
there's no probably about it. They are. Ohio State is. They beat Illinois. We went over this. You were concerned on why Illinois didn't jump Ohio State in the polls, but they already beat them. So it's like
I don't know why, but I have this like weird thing where I want to hype up Illinois all the time. I don't know why. But it's subconsciously, I find myself hyping up Illinois all the time, even after these losses. They happen every once in a while, but every time Illinois goes on a run, I get excited because I know what this team can be. They disappointed sometimes, but they have so much talent from top to bottom that I just think this team is extremely good. I think they have a higher upside than Michigan and Ohio State. I think they have a higher upside, higher potential, higher ceiling, but also lower floor than both of those teams. That's my take. Cotter didn't agree with that take at all. But I do think Illinois has the highest ceiling in the Big Ten, maybe aside from Iowa.
Are we talking like just this year? Are you saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Even then, I still totally disagree. Like, I don't. Michigan they have one loss. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like a Final Four team?
Huh?
You don't think Michigan's a Final Four team?
I don't think Michigan's a Final Four team, no.
Interesting.
But Illinois is.
I think Illinois has a better chance. Yeah, I've said my Final Four before, and it's not going to change.
Why though? Give me
your
why.
It's not going to change because I have a very strong opinion on all four of these teams.
Okay.
Obviously, Baylor and Gonzaga are the best two teams in the nation, right? And then West Virginia, I've always thought West Virginia was a great team.
Hot take. Michigan's better than Baylor.
I think
I don't agree at all.
I think they're
better than Baylor.
To have.
There may be a conversation, but I don't agree because Baylor came off a pause, like you said. They showed a few chinks in the armor, but they got the job done. Baylor, besides last night was it was weird. They kill teams. They go out and take them behind the shed and kill them. Every single one. Every single team that they play besides Iowa State, again, last night. Baylor is dominating everybody in their path. I think if they come across Michigan just won't know what to do. 100 Dickinson will get shut down by Mark Vidal. The 3-point shot will be gone after Davian Mitchell is all over the court. Maceo Teague all over the court, just guarding everybody. And then Jared Butler would put up 30 on him.
We just went over how Michigan does not have a weakness.
Yeah.
Talking about the Ohio State. They don't have to rely on the They don't have to rely on the three.
They don't have a weakness, but Baylor is going to shut down all of their strengths.
They could shut down everyone. Every single strength they have, just shut down.
Best defensive team in the country.
Okay.
Just saying.
That is interesting.
Maybe a great team because their offense is probably not as good as Michigan's, but their defense is
probably not.
Probably not. Jared Butler is a great offensive player, though. He's one of the best in the nation. But as a whole, they're probably not as good as Michigan. Anyways, do you guys have anything else to say? I don't know how this got to Baylor versus Michigan, but and Illinois is my fourth Final Four team, by the way. West Virginia, Illinois, Baylor, Gonzaga. Book it.
Anyway. Let's make it. Okay, come on, hold on. Bryson, you missed this, by the way. Sam was talking about how Kentucky was going to win the SEC tournament, and I straight up said, "Hey, let's make a bet on it. $10 right here, right now."
I'm not wagering on the podcast again. Not doing it again.
He won't do it.
I've got
luck. It's bad luck.
Question for Sam.
Okay.
Do you remember a bet we made last year in regards to Indiana and Kentucky in the NCAA tournament?
Ooh, I do.
No.
I do.
The bet the previous year was that Indiana would go further than Kentucky, and you said Kentucky would go further than Indiana. Well, the tournament got canceled, so we pushed the bet to double or nothing to this year. I'm wondering when you're expecting to pay me.
Huh? When I'm expecting to pay you? Well, Indiana first has to make it.
Sure.
So does Kentucky. Both of these teams have a very good chance of not making the tournament. To be fair. And then
it's Indiana's 50-50 right now. If we're going to be real.
At Rutgers, Michigan,
we've been over their schedule.
We've
been over their schedule.
That's a tough stretch. It's a tough stretch.
They have to win 25% of their games left. They have to win one game.
See, and that seems ludicrous.
I'm betting I bet some money that they're going to win one out of these next four. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know. They won't follow a win with another win, but they'll win one. I would almost guarantee they win one game.
Okay. Look, Indiana probably has a better chance of making it than Kentucky. They actually definitely have a better chance of making it than Kentucky. But yeah, I'll pay up. I'll buy you lunch or whatever. I'll pay up, whatever.
Nice.
Anyways.
Can you throw me into the buying lunch?
No. Connor's out.
I want to make another
I'm
bet.
not wagering with Connor ever again. He's
Illinois in the Final Four.
No.
I don't think it happens.
I'm out. That's fine.
You
don't have to.
What about Michigan going farther than Illinois?
I bet responsibly, so I'm not going to do it.
I bet responsibly.
So let's change to the other side of college basketball. Something that we haven't gave love to at all are the mid-majors of college basketball. There's always, in every tournament, there's always that one team in the mid-majors that goes far, makes a Sweet 16 run, maybe makes a Final Four run. But nobody talks about them before the tournament happens because they're not on nationally televised games. Nobody knows about them. But in this segment, I want to give some love to them. So every single one of us is going to choose one. Before we get to Shawn Smith, every one of us is going to give one mid-major team from any conference they want and tell me where they're going to go.
I just want to clarify that Gonzaga cannot be a mid-major.
Obviously. Gonzaga is not a mid-major.
Okay.
Connor, if it was Gonzaga, sorry, but you can go first.
Okay.
It wasn't. To be honest, I feel like you guys are a little more knowledgeable on the mid-majors than I am, so I wanted to go first because if my team got taken, then I would have been in trouble.
You would have been heartbroken, yeah.
Shout out to guest on the pod. Hopefully he listens to this episode. I'm going with Belmont.
Okay.
They're 24-1, 18-0 in their conference. And there's some decent teams. Morehead State and Eastern Kentucky and Jacksonville State or all three of those teams are pretty good. They should have won the last time they were in the tournament. I think we talked about that at one point. They lost on a last-second basket. I don't know. From what Brody has told us, they have a good freshman guard. They have a good dominant big man. I can't say his name. Not even going to try and say his name, but yes,
something like that.
So yeah, I'm going with them. Can't argue with 24-1. So
fair.
Pitt.
Bryson, since this is your idea, I'll let you go second. Just don't pick my team, please.
I hope I don't. I'm going to the Mountain West, and I'm going to choose the Boise State Broncos.
Ooh, I like Boise State a lot. I like that pick.
I really like them, and I think that they can make a run because of Derek Alston Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude is a stud, and in the NCAA tournament, you need that one guy that can carry you over the hump and at the end of games, and I think they have it in Derek Alston. So my sleep as of right now is Boise State.
I saved a TikTok off of Derek Alston Jr.'s account for if he has a big game. I'm not going to share the content of the TikTok for the joke, but I'm really excited to use it. But yeah, not a bad pick at all. The Mountain West, by the way, I don't think I've said it on the podcast. I think that they're going to get 4 teams in the tournament.
That's a darn good conference.
I think they're going to get 4 teams in. I think they're even better than, say, the American right now. Like, I think they are a great conference. Maybe better than, like, the Big East. I don't know. They're good. They're really good. But thank you for not picking my team. I wanted to give a shout-out. Nick Norris, he's coming on next week. I'm taking the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. I have a lot of family connection to Western Kentucky. All my family went there, my sisters. And this is probably the best team they've had in a long time, probably since like Courtney Lee. I mean, Charles Bassey, he's a guy who came in, he was a top 5 recruit, never really showed out. Now he's averaging 18 and 12. He can match up against any big man in the country, whether small college or not, he can match up against anybody in the country. And that's what I think puts them over the top. I think if you can win in the trenches against like a Power 5 school, then you're pretty damn good. Like, I think he's not going to shut him down, obviously, but he can keep up with the Garza, kind of. He can not necessarily keep up, but he can play better defense than a lot of these mid-major schools can. I know that sounded odd. I wanted to make sure that was put out that Luka Garza is obviously a better player than Charles Bassey. I'm not trying to make that take that he's not. But Charles Bassey is a damn good player. Tavion Hollingsworth is a great scorer, averaging 14 points for this team. The only problem is if they don't get into this tournament. If they get in, then they're going far. They're going extremely far. They're definitely winning the first round game. And this is just a team built for the tournament. Probably as a 12 seed, I think they can get to the Sweet 16 or beyond. What's up? Yeah, why is your hand raised?
Just wanted to, before we transition to our, I'm guessing, are we done after this?
Yeah, we're done after this. Just a short little intro. Yeah.
I'm looking at Lenardi's latest. I was going to go through real quick the matchups for our teams.
Yeah.
Look at the first. So it looks like Boise is a 10 seed right now. And they would be matched up with, I don't want to do the math wrong on this. They're matched up with a, what
Just
are they?
pull up
Is it
the
a
actual.
7?
I'll pull up the actual bracket.
Yeah, actually, you go ahead and do that.
Quick note on Sam's pick, Western. They actually beat Alabama earlier this year.
And they play Houston tomorrow.
They do, yes.
Yeah.
So it might be a good pick. They played West Virginia really close earlier in the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Should have beat them.
Yeah. So that could be a team to watch out for.
Look, I'm praying that they make it, but they got a tough conference. Marshall's going after that bid. Who knows if they'll get it? All right, so I got it pulled up. So Boise State's going up against LSU. That seems like a pretty.
I think they can win that game.
Yeah, Western Kentucky's going up against USC. USC is a good team. We need to talk about USC after this segment. We'll talk about USC, and then Connor, you picked Belmont. They would actually play Western Kentucky in the next round. They play Wisconsin.
Play Wisconsin first?
Yeah.
Ooh, I could see I like that.
Yeah.
I think Wisconsin sucks.
I think we gave out some good picks. We didn't mention Loyola Chicago, who could obviously make a run. But right here, they're matched up in the next round against Gonzaga. That's not very good.
Tough.
Drake against Colorado. I like Colorado a lot. I think they beat Drake, to be honest, but neither here or there. And then we got, obviously, Colorado State bringing in that Mountain West again. Winthrop is a great team, but they got Virginia. There's a lot of good mid-major teams. If you want to count Wichita State, they've been playing really well. I don't think you really count the American anymore, though. But yeah, weird enough, every single one of our teams are in the same bracket.
Really?
Yeah, Region 2 in Baylor's bracket.
Interesting.
So, neither here or there. I'm ready for it. Go Hilltoppers. Let's talk about USC. So the other night, they went in and just absolutely pummeled the Oregon Ducks. USC is a team that we haven't really got to the Pac-12 a lot. They haven't been in the news much. Obviously, we're in the Midwest. Pac-12 rarely comes up. But they pummeled Oregon just from start to finish. I think they went up, 17-1 at one point. It was bad. It was a bad showing by the Oregon Ducks. Great showing by the USC Trojans. This is a team that could go pretty far. Obviously, resting on Evan Mobley to do their dirty work. But in this game, Taj Edey went crazy. He put up 24 points against the Oregon Ducks. absolutely outplayed Chris Duarte, who's one of the best shooting guards in the country, and just dominated start to finish. I mean, USC is a team that's ranked, like weirdly ranked. Nobody really knows that they're actually ranked. Like when you look at it, you ask an average college basketball fan if USC is ranked, they're going to say no. But I don't know. I like this team. They could go far. I mean, they got who did I say they got? Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see. If I was filling out a bracket right now, I would put Western Kentucky over USC just for an upset. But USC is a damn good team. So there you go. Let's get you to Shawn Smith. I know that's what you guys have been waiting for. You guys have any last comments?
I'm good.
Illinois sucks.
Ooh,
They don't suck, but they're overrated.
Can't wait for next week. That'll be a very good conversation for you guys to listen to. I may mute my mic. Bryson may mute his mic, and it may just be a battle on the airwaves. Can't wait. But now to Shawn Smith. Love you guys. And now we'd like to welcome on from Go Big Blue Country and co-host of the Sources Say podcast. We got Shawn Smith. Shawn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're doing all right. But I wanted to ask you some questions about your upbringing a little bit. So you just bursted on the scene a couple of years ago in Kentucky media, GBB Country obviously blowing up, and now you're a co-host for one of the biggest Kentucky recruiting podcasts there is. So just tell me a little bit about how that happened and how it happened so quickly.
Yeah, just my degree is actually in education. It was not in journalism at all. I had no desire to ever do anything like this, podcasting, nothing. But then I'd got to a point to where I started doing a little bit. I'd have some conversations with some people on the phone. They're like, "Look, you know too much about the UK beat to not be putting your words out there and your thoughts out there for everyone else to kind of grab onto." So I started it just as a hobby. I was still planning to be a full-time teacher. Actually, I'm a middle school basketball coach too, so I do that. So I still do the kind of the education side of it, just not in the classroom.
Yeah.
And then it just took off. Like somebody said, "Hey, you should try to apply for media credentials." And I was like, whatever, there's no chance. And then I reach out to UK and I apply, and they're like, "Well, you can't just have a podcast and a website. You got to meet this criteria." And then eventually I met the criteria, and then I kind of worked my way in and worked my way up, and then built a really good relationship with Jack Pilgrim, who works at KSR. We met covering the Nike EYBL when we were in Cartersville, Georgia, and became close friends. And then there was an opening on that podcast, and I took it, and it's been a blessing. I had a radio show in the past too, but it got to the point to where I co-host Kentucky Daily with my co-host Derek Terry from 24/7 Sports, and I have the Sources Say with Jack. And then I had a podcast, Just Go Big Blue Country, that I really never even get to record because I don't have the time on top of everything else. But it's been a journey, but just the relationships and everything that I've built, it's a blessing to get to do Sources Say. I really enjoy that platform.
Sure. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to be wrong here, but the first time I heard you on podcast, it was a Sources Say episode, and I can't remember the exact player you guys were scouting, but I remember you guys were watching somebody play. It might have been Bryce Hopkins, to be honest. Maybe it was him, maybe it was Sky Clark. I can't remember, but it was a future Kentucky commit, and man, I looked at all your work and I love it, man. You're doing great stuff out there.
I appreciate it. I think it was Sky Clark because we all went to watch him. I think it was late last summer. Might have been in August, and that's kind of when I joined Sources Say. Yeah. I was just a plug and fill guy that I would be on there when they needed somebody, but then there became a point where I think Jack liked how the episodes were going, and then the reaction. I've received a ton of messages from people saying, "Hey, I love that you're on Sources Say," and it's cool to be on that platform because I reach a different side of the fan base. Like that, look, KSR, 95% of people who watch Kentucky, they listen or read KSR.
Sure,
so being on that platform kind of brought attention to Kentucky Daily, Go Big Blue Country, the other things that I get to do. And sure, we it's all competitive. Like obviously it's a different outlet, but then again, like that's what's made it so cool is you have three people from three different outlets that cover Kentucky that have come together to put their thoughts not only into recruiting, but to just this Kentucky basketball season and everything. And I think that gives people just a place where they can go to and get a different opinion. Like Jack and I, we agree a lot, but sometimes we disagree, and I think that's what makes the show, what it is.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Yesterday, or it was actually a couple days ago, we touched on the Chris Mack video. I'm guessing you've seen this.
Yeah, absolutely.
We saw that he immediately reached out to Cal, and Cal gave him a word of advice. So first, what was your reaction to this? And secondly, do you have any inside knowledge on what Cal might have actually said to him?
My reaction was, I love it. Not just from, a fan standpoint, but a guy who covers that rivalry. That's what you want, right? When you're covering a rivalry, it's like Kentucky, Indiana. Like Kentucky and Indiana should be playing every single year. There's no reason to not be playing. You love it when you see stuff like that. And I don't look at Chris Mack any differently. I mean, he was having some fun. Obviously the video wasn't supposed to go public. But the only thing that I got out of it is when it did go public, I wish that he wouldn't have been like, it wasn't a shot at Cal. Look, if you're saying in the video, Kenny Payne won those games, how is that anything other than a shot?
Oh, it was obviously a shot at John Cal.
It's clearly a shot. And I don't have any knowledge of what Cal said to him. I'm sure, Max said that Cal offered up some advice, which I'm 110% positive that's what Cal does. That's what Cal always does. But I'm willing to bet too, Cal has written this in blood, and he will never forget it. And Cal's to a point. Look, 12 years in, the one and done thing that that he kind of owned college basketball, it's kind of went away. Kentucky's not getting the top 5 kids, the Anthony Davis top players, which you don't always get Anthony Davis top players in college basketball, but his recruiting approach, I think it's kind of changing. And this season, I know that he's all the time talking about how coaching at Kentucky ages you in dog years. Well, this has probably been double dog years this season has. So I think that this is a coach that has been looking for anything to kind of get rejuvenated. And you better believe he's going to have that hanging on his wall. He's going to have that written down somewhere. And the first time that game is played again, it just adds fuel to the rivalry. I like it. Anytime you can add fire to it. And look, I said it a long time ago. I said, I don't know if that rivalry can ever get back to what it was when Rick Pitino was head coach, just given the history and the connection and him and Calipari having a rivalry. They hired Chris Mack, and all Kentucky fans were saying, I don't have any reason not to like this guy. Well, now 95% of the fan base has a reason just to not like the guy. And that's what makes rivalries so good. So I'm a big fan of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about it, and Sam was kind of taking he was kind of taking control of that conversation, and I just kind of chimed in and was like, Louisville's been the little brother to a certain degree in this, and that's not, they are, and I kind of took it as, why are you doing that? Like, I know the video wasn't supposed to go public and all, but like, they weren't good when the video came out. They're not good now.
It goes public the day they lose by 45 points. North Carolina. That's even the funnier thing about it. And then here's the crazy thing. Chris Mack had to call a press conference to kind of apologize. And it was, in a sense, now it's not even the win against Kentucky is the story. Yeah. It's the video. So like you finally beat Kentucky and you don't even kind of get to enjoy it. But then again, though, I look at it this way too. Would you rather have talked about that video or losing by 45 to North Carolina?
Yeah, I think it saved him. It saved him that all the backlash for losing to a bubble North Carolina team. But either way, I like making fun of Louisville just as much as the next guy.
It's easy to do. They make it easy to do.
Yes, they do.
Kind of shifting towards Kentucky now. They obviously aren't having the year that many expected or many hoped. If you could kind of talk to what you think is the main cause of these struggles and kind of what is preventing them from being the powerhouse that they usually are.
Well, their elite wasn't elite for the longest time. You know, we went into this season. You guys know this. B.J. Boston, Terrence Clark were supposed to be studs, and you know that's kind of the unfair billing that comes with not just Kentucky basketball. It comes with North Carolina basketball, Duke basketball, any of the blue bloods. If you get a top 10 kid, I mean, you're expecting what has been 98, 99% of the time at Kentucky. You're expecting those guys to be elite. Olivier Sarr, too, was billed to be like this dominant big man, and I think that Cal almost made a mistake by trying to turn him into a back-to-the-basket big, kind of like he did with Skal Labissière a few years ago. Now you're seeing Cal change and let Olivier play some face-up. Like probably 85% of Olivier's game right now is face-up, and it's kind of made Kentucky a better team the last few weeks. But I think the biggest thing that led to the struggles, I mean, I'm not going to use COVID as an excuse, but it certainly it affected them because they didn't get that team bonding. Look, these are college kids who are staying in their dorm room. They weren't even allowed to eat together. And you guys know how big is that in your life, being able to share, you know, just those 30 minutes a day, just having a meal with a friend or something like that, especially in a college atmosphere. You don't get the normal college atmosphere. You don't get to go out and enjoy the gatherings, the friends and things like that. I'm sure that was hard, but I still think as far as a basketball standpoint, the biggest thing that stands out to me, and I still think it's a problem, but they're finding ways to kind of navigate it now. They didn't have anyone that made things easy offensively for them. Like they didn't have that guard that could just go make a play, like when they needed a basket. I think that's why they lost so many games in the final 4 minutes. This is a team, it feels like that they've had to execute more than any John Calipari team has in the past. And now you're starting to see that. They're starting to execute. They're starting to score 75, 80 points a game. But when it gets down to the end of games and close games, who's the guy that you kind of go to right now on this team? It's Davion Mintz to me. But I think that was the biggest thing. I don't think that they were able to identify that in a normal Kentucky basketball year. Like last year, you do it was Emmanuel Quickley, or it was Tyrese Maxey was your go-to. The year before, it was Tyler Hero or P.J. Washington. I think that this one, it took literally 3 months to kind of figure out who that closer is, and it's been Davion Mintz.
Yeah, no doubt. And you kind of touched on it there. They've been playing better recently, and Davion Mintz is a reason why. But aside from him, is there anyone else on the roster, another couple people that you think that down the stretch is going to be a really bright spot for Kentucky?
Yeah, Isaiah Jackson, right? I think that's the guy that you kind of hang your hat on right now. He's been better than advertised. Like we thought, like there was some buzz. There's always that one guy that you're not talking about that Cal will come out in the preseason and build up, and then most of the time it ends up working out, and it ended up being Isaiah Jackson this year. I do think that he's going to climb into the lottery by the end of the season. But I don't know how the NBA is going to do their workouts when it comes to the combine and everything. But if that's a guy that gets in front of scouts face to face, he will be a top 14 pick in the NBA draft. His offensive game is getting better now. Elite rim protector. He runs the floor very well. I'm a big fan of what he's doing, but also I will tell you this. If this had been a normal Kentucky basketball team that would be in the top 10, top 15 right now, Isaiah Jackson would be talked about even more. But I think Kentucky's struggles kind of overshadowed how good he actually has been.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to get to this before they comment on it. So we actually had this the exact same conversation 2 episodes ago, and I was explaining why Isaiah Jackson should be a first-round pick.
Is that why I got the smiles a minute ago?
That's why you got the smiles. And I was waiting to say something. So, in my opinion, there is always room for a elite rim protector, an athletic big, and a guy like that to come off the bench for any NBA team, and I think that's worth spending a first-round pick on. They disagree. I can give them the floor, give them an argument why they disagree, but I think there's always a place for a guy like Isaiah Jackson in the NBA.
And I want them to know before you disagree, you're not the only person, or you're not the only people that have disagreed. I've had people in DMs with me over the last few days since the Tennessee game that disagree, that you can't just go off 2 to 3 games. Yeah. But that's the debate. I mean, obviously it's a discussion right now, and he's clearly I think he's the only one that I think could even – I don't think B.J. Boston will climb to the lottery. I think that B.J. Boston could sneak a late first round, but I just don't see it with him.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll go first, I guess. I have grown to kind of as an IU fan, watch Kentucky because, not to get off topic, I'm a Heat fan. So there's the connection with Pat Riley and Calipari, the Kentucky players, the prospects, all that stuff. So this year, obviously, I don't want them to draft a Kentucky player. Probably, I don't see a fit with any of their players. But with Isaiah Jackson, he gives off the Willie Cauley-Stein vibe to me a little bit, and that's why I fear the first round pick. But I told Sam this. I said, well, I don't think he should. I think he probably will, because I think Cal has such a great pull with front offices around the league. Everybody trusts him. I mean, he continues to get these guys drafted every year. So I think he probably will. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying I think he should, but I don't know. The Willie Cauley-Stein vibe to me with him, I mean, that just didn't work out. So.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point too. That, I mean, Cal, with enough made baskets, Cal might get me drafted in the lottery. Like, just saying, that's the success that's the pull that he kind of has when it comes to that situation. So I think the Kentucky factor certainly helps when you have a prospect like Isaiah Jackson. But I do think that his offensive game is what you're seeing improvement. Like early in the season, he took a couple of shots or a couple of threes, and you could kind of see Cal like, do not do that again or something, or like a 15-footer. But just Saturday's game sticks out to me the most is because, and it was only a half. Like, yeah, he didn't do as much in the second half. Davion Mintz didn't score a point in the second half. But, like, Kentucky couldn't even score. Neither could Tennessee. But Isaiah Jackson, there was a play there in the first half where he went baseline and had like a little step-back jumper that he buried. And then the other side of the floor, you have to kind of respect that shot now. And what's he do? He blows by Fulkerson and goes Skywalker on him on the baseline. Just those things that stand out to me. And that's a guy that it's unfortunate that they didn't have a game this week until Florida. They're probably going to try to reschedule both those SEC games, but it's going to have to come down to, at this point, do you even want to take a chance on kind of exposing yourself to COVID and shutting your program down right before the SEC tournament? I think that's something these bubble teams are going to have to kind of navigate more so than the teams that are already solidified as a seed. But let's say we get 7 more games of Isaiah Jackson. That's 7 games that if he continues this trend of playing well, SEC Player of the Week, I think that could work him into the lottery. If not, there's one thing that is for sure: he's going to be a first-round pick.
Not to stay on this topic too long, but again, personally, getting to know Bam Adebayo and his development in the NBA, I think part of this, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, Cal, other than Anthony Davis, he's kind of like stuck these big men in a certain role and not let them really expand their game. Like, I mean, Bam was a guard in high school, basically. Like, he would bring the ball up the floor. He does it now in the NBA. But you never saw him do that at Kentucky. So it's like that would be a selling point again for Cal to make to front offices. Like, we put him in this specific role, but there's so many more things that he could potentially do. And as a person just watching, that's why potentially I don't think he should be a lottery, but then he could end up being there because he shows stuff that I haven't seen before.
And the NBA goes off potential. I mean, that's the thing that they look at. I think that you obviously look at the long-term potential of Isaiah Jackson. I think he's a guy, too, that would have benefited from not picking on Devin Askew. He's getting better now. But that's Kentucky's point guard. We've seen it with him playing a ton of minutes this season that Kentucky doesn't really have another option at point guard. So the struggles have been there. But Isaiah Jackson, I think he's a guy that would have benefited from playing with even Ashton Hagans, a point guard who could do some things like that, or same thing with B.J. Boston. I think that's kind of fueled his struggles a little bit. Is if you don't have a point guard that's ready to play at the level of Kentucky, it kind of bleeds over to everybody else. Because look, if Tyler Ulis played alongside B.J. Boston, I guarantee we'd be talking about B.J. Boston a lot more.
Absolutely, yeah, and I get that. So we talked a lot about a guy who's going to be gone next year, and probably B.J. Boston will be gone next year. I'm assuming Terrence Clark is gone, Olivier Sarr. And we all know this team is completely disappointing. We get it. But I kind of want your outlook on next year. So there's a lot of guys that could be coming back. This could be a completely different Kentucky turnover year. We got a good recruiting class coming in. Obviously, Oscar Tshiebwe in the transfer portal. Maybe a Davion Mintz return, but I want your opinion on what this roster will look like next year. And not necessarily a prediction on how we do, because we all had those predictions for this year. But I just want to know who you think the players on next year's team will be.
This has been the topic. If you've listened to sources say since January, this
Absolutely.
has been my go-to. And honestly, I think I've kind of just beaten it to death. But it feels like every game when the game's over, regardless of whether Kentucky wins, even after they had their best one of the season at Tennessee Saturday, I still was talking about the future.
Yeah.
And you're at a point in this program where the fans, they're tired of the roster turnover. They're tired of losing 95% of their team. And the problem has been, where's E.J. Montgomery right now? Where's Ashton Hagans right now? You're losing those guys who could have been pillar pieces to your program and your team this year that aren't really they're not doing anything in the NBA. And I think that's the frustrating side of it, is the guys that really have no path to leave, they still leave. Or the Johnny Juzangs transfer to UCLA and win Conference Player of the Week, or Jamal Baker gets off to a hot start at Arizona. You're at a point in this program where I think Cal is at a crossroads, and I just feel like whatever happens between now and May is going to kind of define whether they're going to get out of this rut that they're in with losing 95% and they're going to start retaining more players, or we're just going to it is what it is. And that's just part of the beast at Kentucky now. But looking at the roster, I think I threw out 6 guys back in January. And I was throwing that, and I was including Davion Mintz in that. I kind of was on top of that early, thinking that it was possible that he could use that blanket waiver. It made sense. He's in a 2-year program at Kentucky with a master's degree there. And when you look at Kentucky's roster next season, there's a spot for Davion Mintz. There's value in having him back. So I bring him back. Jacob Toppin, I have said it, I think is the most important piece to the UK basketball program right now. I know that probably sounded crazy 2 months ago when I said it, but I think people are starting to catch on to it now. And it's only because he has potential. I don't see him being a bust. He's either going to be a very, very good role player, but he also has some potential to be a stud. You can kind of see that taking over the last few weeks with some of his skill set. Lance Ware is another guy that I think, even though he isn't playing now, kind of out of the rotation, he's had his moments this season where he's played 25 to 30 minutes at Mississippi State.
Sure.
Played big minutes against Missouri. He's one of those guys that it depends on the style of play. But I think that's a guy that can be in your program long term. Obviously, Devin Askew not going anywhere. Keon Brooks, I think Keon Brooks will be back. He's never struck me as a kid that's been in a hurry to get out of college. I think that what you're seeing now with him, the rebounding the last 2 games, 14 boards. I think he had 12 maybe against Vandy. You're starting to see his versatility. I think he fits on next year's roster. And then you add in a guy like Oscar Tshiebwe. I mean, you're talking – there's value in your backcourt. Davion Mintz and Devin Askew are going to total more than 1,500 minutes played this year between the two of them. I've not dug into those numbers yet, but I'm willing to bet that might be, outside of the Harrison twins, probably the most experienced backcourt in minutes played that'll be coming back to Kentucky. There's value in that. And then you add a guy in Oscar Tshiebwe with the experience he has, preseason Big 12 Player of the Year, Keon Brooks. I don't feel comfortable putting out what they could be, because obviously they still need to go add a scorer at the 2 spot. I think they need to go add. Is it Trevor Kills? I don't know. That's trending towards Duke. They kind of got in late on that one. So I'm paying attention to the transfer market and the transfer portal to see if they add a piece there in the offseason. But certainly I think that there's enough there for Kentucky fans to be optimistic, not just about next season, but I think optimistic about the program possibly getting to a point to where they can kind of retain 50% of the roster every year. I think it's very important. Right now, Kentucky's had to do what? They've had to go get Reed Travis. They've had to go get Nate Sestina, Davion Mintz, Olivier Sarr. Those have been their seniors. Kentucky has to get to a point to where they can if they can produce 20% of their guys that come in a recruiting class develop into juniors and seniors at Kentucky. I think you got to have that blend. So I think that this is kind of a changing of the guard. If you tell Kentucky fans that these struggles this year will pay off and be successful, and it changes the direction of the program when it comes to that, then I think that Kentucky fans will be happy knowing that at least there was some beauty in the struggle.
Sure. And we just had Jake Weingarten from Stock Risers on last podcast, actually. We were talking about the commits coming in and who could potentially come in with them. And a name that he mentioned at that 2 spot, like you were saying, was Brandon Podzimski. I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right, but the kid from Wisconsin, who everybody's comparing to Tyler Hero. I think everybody would be okay with a guy like that who could fill it up, average 40 a game in high school. But I don't really know if that's a Cal guy, so I don't know if he'll actually come to Kentucky. But who knows? Maybe, like you said, maybe it's a changing of the guard. We just add multi-year prospects, but I don't really see that happening, him going to Kentucky. But Weingarten said that was a high possibility. Do you have any insight on this kid? Or
I certainly think it's a kid that if they want, that they get.
Yeah.
It's not an instant fix, though, for what they're needing there. I think that'd be a piece to the program. I would certainly take him if I'm John Calipari, but also look at it this way. I feel like if Kentucky really wanted him, they might have already had him.
Sure.
And I think that's the other thing. You see them go after a Trevor Kills, after, Podzimski's kind of been on the radar since September, October, and then they still offer Kills. If they don't get Kills, I do think that Podzimski's certainly an option there. But I still think that they're going to have to go. I don't think that they want to rely on a freshman at that spot to come in and score. Because obviously, when you look at the recruiting class, if you don't get Kills, who are you getting? I mean, it's nobody else is there to get. That's where I think it's going to be. And with the transfer portal and the rule going into place, pay attention to elite, programs, the Power 5 programs. Is there a perimeter player that kind of decides to leave? Is there someone from Pitt or someone in the ACC or someone from a Big Ten school that decides to kind of say, hey, look, or a coaching change? Does somebody get fired like Danny Manning did at Wake Forest and Olivier Sarr kind of moves in as a graduate transfer? I think the transfer portal is going to change not just college basketball. You're already seeing it impact college football, even at Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's benefited more from the transfer portal in football this year than any school has, in my opinion. So I think that's going to be another avenue that Kentucky can go in recruiting, but it's also going to be a concern at Kentucky, at Indiana, at Duke. If someone's not happy, they can instantly leave your program and go play somewhere else. That changes the game entirely because it gives the players a voice now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll let you get out of here. Thanks for coming on. It was an awesome interview. Go check out, or tell them where they can find your work.
You can find my work at gobigbluecountry.com, and then I co-host Kentucky Daily. You can find that on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and then with Sources Say, which is on KSR's network as well. Guys, I really appreciate you having me. This is a solid podcast. I thought y'all done a really good job. Sorry that Indiana hasn't really given you much to be happy about in recent years, but I will tell you this: Kentucky and Indiana should be playing home and home every single year.
Absolutely.
There's no reason why Kentucky shouldn't be at Assembly Hall and Indiana shouldn't be at Rupp Arena. I don't want it neutral, but I'll take it. But it should be home and home.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Awesome interview.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys.
Whenever you want to come back on, just let us know and you got a spot. Thank you.
Absolutely. If you ever need me, just reach out to me. I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
See ya.